Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. What are you looking at? This is a 1986 Foreman 350. It is a full-time four-wheel drive. I picked it up. This one came from the car show in Rhinebeck. I probably picked it up like 4 or 5 years ago. It was reasonable. Probably somewhere around $300. I don't recall exactly. I had to put new front tires on it. And the story on this bike was it was rolled. And I believe it was totaled, and eventually a guy who fixes all-terrain vehicles had it, and he took a bunch of parts off of it, and then it ended up at the car show. So probably somebody had a loan and insurance on it. You can see things like the handlebar was bent up and a bunch of stuff on this side was bent up. The plastics were completely gone. Though, if you're familiar with the Foreman 350, it is not uncommon for this thing to not have plastics. What am I working on? The carburetor keeps flooding, and it's been very, very frustrating to me because I've rebuilt it a couple of times, and it's like, why does this thing keep flooding? And let me show you what I found. And I really slowed down and said, I'm going to look at absolutely everything before I go the next step. And sometimes one has to do that. Anyway, you guys know how to take, this is for enriching to start it, the choke, so to speak. You kind of lift it up and it lets a little extra gas into the carburetor. Obviously, you guys know how to disconnect the gas line. And by the way, this gas line is brittle at this point. More than brittle, the filter too. So the gas line needs to be changed, and I'm sure you guys could figure out how to undo this Japanese Phillips, and you just very gently rock the carburetor off, and even I'm sure you guys could sort your way through getting those bolts off, taking the bowl off, taking the pin out of the float and getting it out. Obviously, I put that next to my ear. I'm putting it next to the camera. I'm shaking it right. There's no fluid in it. I looked at this thing, and quite honestly, it's new. I changed this once. So it's not that, and I'm going, what the heck is wrong with this? And I don't know if my camera's gonna let me show it to you, but if you look into where that float valve goes, I mean, you see that thing in there? I think you guys could see it, right? Right. Let me use something smaller than that. Yeah. Hopefully she'll focus. Come on, focus. Right there. Right on the bottom. It's a piece of plastic or a piece of lint or, I don't know, piece of a spider leg or something. So I think what's been happening is, for some reason, I'm getting shedding. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the gas line. I'm going to put another fuel filter into it. And I'm going to go forward from there. This fuel line, and I'm actually disappointed. This fuel line, I bought a bunch of them, and they were China deal. It was like 10 fuel line, filter, fuel line, and they were like, I don't know, 10 for $20 or something like that. But once again, the problem is it dries out. It's no good. This is OEM stuff, and you can see it's still flexible. These are vents from this. So this is from 1986. Maybe it was made in late '85. So we're looking at over 20 years old, and you could still, right? And then you see this stuff. I want to be careful. I don't want to break and shoot my screws all over the place. There are different thoughts when it comes to rebuilding carburetors. Some folks soak them, which is valid. I have a tendency not to soak, and the reason why I'm not big on soaking carburetors, taking them apart and soaking them, is because I always worry about there's some hidden path like through here, and that the soaking solution will damage the parts in there. Then I can't get in there to do anything about it, or if it was something I overlooked, like perhaps I forgot to pull this plug out and take it apart, right? So even if now I get it apart, I may not be able to get the parts to go back in there. So I have a tendency not to be a soaking person. I don't like to soak in a bathtub either. I take showers. Normally what I do, and some people, I'm sure I'm going to get the comments that, oh, that's even worse than the plastic than soaking them in a carburetor bath. That might be true, but I just kind of take all the paths that I can find in the carburetor, all the jet holes, all the little passages, all that kind of stuff, and I normally blow carb cleaner through it, or brake cleaner, and do it that way. And as soon as I finish all this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to up, though there is already there's already some seafoam in there. I'm going to up the seafoam a little bit, and I'll put gasoline with preservative in there and then start it up, which means hopefully there's gasoline with preservative going throughout the carburetor. So if any of those parts did get a dose of something like this brake cleaner, and if it's not good for them, it'll be flushed out of there. Different people do different things. Folks do stuff that work for them. My spray technique has always worked well for me. For other people, soaking always works well for them. So that's just my choice. Anyway, shoot, I don't have any gasoline floating around the house. I definitely don't have any fresh gas floating around the house. I might have to, I don't know, I might just have to go pick up a little bit. Normally for these bikes, I try to, across the river from me, there's a Stewart's up that area. I think it's called the Sopus. It's a Sopus. Anyway, they have a Stewart's that sells 91 octane, and there's no ethanol in it. It's just gasoline. I try to run, when I put gas in any of these tanks, I try to use that stuff, and then once again, between the seafoam and some preservative, it seems to keep the inside of the tanks nicer. It seems to keep them cleaner. Some of you folks probably live in states where they're not all that big on the ethanol, and some of you folks, I'm sure, if California, if you live out there in California, they probably even sell that E85 stuff. I don't put that in these things. It's not. I don't think it's recommended, and I don't think it's good for them. Anyway, folks, there we are. I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Please keep your feet down, your heads up, and once again, I'll fix this, and at some point I'm sure we'll take a ride. Anyway, feet down, heads up, and get out there and enjoy every one of your days. Don't let any time get by you. Take care now, folks.